What is up, guys? Welcome back to another series here. Today we have, this time, Jeskai Geist. For those of you that have watched my previous series, you'll know that I do a lot of Grixis Delver, a lot of Jeskai Sahili, Grixis Shadow, Blue-White Control, things of that nature. So Jeskai Geist is a slightly different approach than I have shown in the past. It's a deck that is actually fairly aggressive. And it plays similar to Grixis Delver in the sense that you want to land a threat and then consistently disrupt your opponent as you get their life total down to 0. The benefit of Geist, for example, let me pull it up for you here. Geist over Delver of Secrets is that although it's 3 mana, it deals 6 damage a turn, and it has hexproof, which means it dodges some of the most prevalent removal spells in the format, like Fatal Push, Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt. All these cards do nothing against Geist, and we actually want to see those kind of spells on our opponent's side of the board because we just blank our opponent's cards. So that's what I really love about Geist. For those of you that know me in real life, you'll know that I played Geist, since I started Modern, basically, competitively. It was my first competitive deck. I went to a Star City Games event, I traded in all my collection, and then I decided to get some Geists, and I think some Snapcasters and some Scalding Tarns way back when. So it was definitely a deck. It's a deck I hold close to my heart. And lately, it's actually been doing well. I'm Harlan Firer. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's someone who plays on the SCG Tour, and he's actually done fantastic with it. In large tournaments, he's got in top 32 and things like that, top 16 even maybe one time. So I get a lot of inspiration for this list from him, but I also put my own little tweaks on it for what I expect in the meta. So, with that said, let's talk about the deck itself. Of course, it plays 4 Geist of St. Traft, and it plays 4 Snapcaster Mages. This is really going to be your core creatures of the deck. And the reason you play 4 Snapcaster Mages alongside Geist of St. Traft is because you also play a ton of cheap removal. You play 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Path to Exile. This is the premier removal spells of the format. And with these premier removal spells, you get to play counter spells like Spell Snare, Remand, Logic Knot, Cryptic Command, all these other cards to make sure the board is clear, or you can control the game. That way Geist of St. Traft can get in there for damage. We also play 2 Electrolyze. It's just this solid card, especially with Coco Company in the meta. And it also can just always be burned to the face while drawing new cards in the process. And we're also playing 2 Spell Queller beside Geist of St. Traft, just because it's this nice threat to have both as a flash threat and a disruptive threat against opposing combo decks, where sometimes you can't tap out for Geist, but you still want to be able to apply pressure. So you can play Spell Queller, basically exile their spell, and then keep attacking for damage, all while holding up counter spells in the process. And then I'm also playing 4 Lightning Helix here, because I think Lightning Helix is very well positioned right now. There's a lot of good targets for it, and even though Death Shadow is huge right now, it can still be a burn spell to the face, and that's how we win against Death Shadow. We just burn them out. And when you're not burning them out, you're probably beating down with Geist of St. Traft, or removing the threats with Path to Exile. Now, I'm not saying the Death Shadow matchup is easy, but we definitely have game against it. And I do like Lightning Helix for the burn matchup, because we're not devoting a lot of sideboard space to burn. So having 4 Lightning Helix in the main, backed up by some Spell Snares, Geists, things like that, really helps close out a match very quickly against burn. Let's talk about the mana base now. We have 3 Colonnades, 2 Spire Bluff. That's really the only things that are going to stand out to you. The rest is a standard Jeskai mana base, 8 fetches, 5 shock lands, 5 basics. Now let's go ahead and go. Actually, let's talk about Logic Knot. So I love Remand. I love it so much, but sometimes having 4 is just too many. Having a hard counter in Logic Knot that can be in, late game actually counter your opponent's spell is actually very helpful. So that's why we're running this one of Logic Knot in place of the 4th Remand. So hopefully that explains a bit of that to you. Let's look at the sideboard here. We have, of course, some hate for Dredge. Same in Anger of the Gods. I can also hate Go Wide decks. We have Is It Staticaster and Supreme Verdict, also to hate out some Go Wide decks. Supreme Verdict is very good against Grixis Shadow. which is why I would like to have at least one. I almost made this Is It Staticaster a second verdict, but I'm going to go ahead and run without that second verdict and see how it goes. We have 3 Ceremonious Rejection. That's going to be the way we want to attack Eldrazi-Tron, Affinity, all these different kinds of decks. That's how we want to handle them. We have 1 Dispel Negate as our counterspell suite. We have Wear Tear as this kind of like utility spell. It can handle a bunch of weird permanents that we generally don't always have the best answer to once resolved. We have 1 of Stony Silence just because I think it's still a good card. It can really shut down Affinity and some of Eldrazi-Tron's best cards like Oblivion Stone, Walking Ballista, Batterskull, all these weird cards that just get shut down by Stony Silence. Now we have a 1 of Blessed Alliance, just to also be good against Death Shadow while gaining life against aggressive decks. And then we have our top end in Elspeth's Son's Champion, which is a card that can just come down and end the game against so many different kinds of, mid-rangey decks that it's important to, I feel, have that one kind of haymaker in there that can really swing the matchup. So that's Jeskai Geist for you. I love it. It's very aggressive. It's very fast, but it can also play control. So that's what we're going to watch. At least that's what you're going to watch, hopefully, in these next 5 matches in a Modern Competitive League. And let's just cross our fingers that we do a little bit better than we did the other day with Grixis Shadow. All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you soon in the first round. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first match here with Jeskai Geist. We won the die roll, so we would like to play first. Yeah. Let's take a look at our opener here. This is actually pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and say keep. And I'm probably not going to go Serum Visions turn 1. Just so that I can make sure I can cast Geist on curve. Booming Marsh probably indicates to me we're getting Thoughtseized here, yep. Which means that we're probably not going to get to cast Geist, as it's definitely the most threatening card our opponent can take here. So our opponent might be on Abzan here. I don't think Jund plays Blooming Marsh. I could be wrong. But my guess is this is some sort of Abzan mid-range build here. So we got a Steam Vents. I'm going to go ahead and... It's interesting because do we want to keep up both Bolt and... Oh, they took Spell Snare actually. Oh, poof. So I think step 1 is going to be to Serum Visions. 2 Geist is interesting. I'm going to go ahead and put that land on the bottom. But Electrolyze could be a decent card. So now there's no lands in the graveyard. So if they go ahead and play a Tarmogoyf, I'd like to have Lightning Bolt up to stop it. Alright, so they're going to have Tarmogoyf out. It's going to be a pretty big one. So this is one of the matchups that are actually probably the worst. So Jund, interesting. Jund with Blooming Marsh. I swear I thought they maxed out on the... Wow, they're just running out the ooze knowing that we have Lightning Bolt. I mean, I'll bolt it. And so if our opponent Liliana's next turn, I'm not even going to be that upset. Because then we just have another Geist to play. And we can also Electrolyze it down. Alright, so here comes Liliana. I've played this game many, many times. This is the way it works. Yep. Geist's worst weakness. It's great that you guys get to see it in the first match here. The question is now, do we want to Electrolyze Liliana, or do we just want to play another Geist? And I think we just want to play another Geist. And the question is, do we want to keep this Flooded Strand in hand to discard to Liliana, or do we want to play out our land? My guess is we're probably discarding Remand anyways at this point in the game. I mean, it's not like horrible, but it's not great either. So it's an interesting choice. I actually think we play out the land. I don't know how much how much disruption they have or anything like that. I guess they'll start up with picking up Liliana here. And we'll go ahead and discard Remand. And of course, if our opponent plays a second Liliana, we'll be very, very upset. But there's a lot of situations here where we don't just like lose. Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf will do it. It'll at least shut down Geist from attacking. But we have a lot of draws that can get us out of this. So I'm going to get another white source here because we already have the blue for Cryptic Command. And now Path to Exile is what we want to see off the top. Let's go ahead and start with... Yes. So all to our opponent, red. Do you want to redirect? Yes, we do. We draw Bolt, which is not a bad card, but right now this is the major problem of Geist sometimes, is that they can just, you know, play these beefy threats. Like if they if they attack and then follow up with another Tarmogoyf, we're gonna be in a pretty uncomfortable position. All right, Scavenging Ooze it is. How many creatures are in the graveyard? Ooh, okay. So we're gonna have to bolt kind of in response to their activation of Scooze. So that's a Helix. So we could trade 2 burn spells. Or we could trade 1 even. This isn't simple because they, I'm sure, have another green source in their deck, like an Overgrown Tomb. Let's see, if we attack, they'll probably activate Scooze to avoid it from dying, and then we can bolt it. And that means we would only have used 1 of the spells in our hand. At the same time, if they just go for the trade, like, what did we just do? We just lost basically our win condition. But I think if they just let the trade happen, we can actually maybe just burn out this Goyf. So I think we're actually going to go ahead and attack here. And our opponent's going to block. And we're going to say okay. And now our opponent's going to activate Scooze. And here we say no. Let's go ahead and bolt you. Sure, and they're going to use this to gain 1 life here. I guess. It's pretty weird, actually. It seems like that's mana negative, life negative, I guess, is net life negative. So they're gaining 1 here by exiling something, but sure. So there goes Geist. They gain 1 life. Scavenging Ooze still dies. They take 4, and they're... Oh, right. So they still gain that 1 from the other one. Sure. So now they're at 10. And so now attacking with Tarmogoyf is pretty risky, especially considering we can maybe just get a land and rev up Colonnade. And that could just be lethal right on the spot. Now, of course, they could still have Fatal Push for Colonnade. Let's see if our opponent decides to attack here. So they do attack, which kind of makes me think they have something else to play. They do not. But they probably have a removal spell for the Angel token. So what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and send Lightning Helix upstairs. That way we draw land. We can at least force them to do something here. Alright, we draw a land, not the land we wanted though. So my guess is we're going to see a Fatal Push on our Angel token here. Yep, and that's what happens. So we only get in for 2. But now we can play Spirebluff Canal, and we can have 2 lethal threats next turn. There's a lot of things our opponent could have here, though, so it's important to just make heads-up plays. The fact that they're at 5 and not 4 is huge. Oh my god, do they have 2 lightning bolts? No. Alright, our opponent got there. Wow, if we could have revved up Colonnade last turn, would that have done anything? No, because they still had Fatal Push. Yeah, our opponent got us. That's frustrating, but that's magic sometimes. Okay, so for Jund, Elspeth comes in. I like to bring in Supreme Verdict as well. Here I generally like to cut Remand. It's a counterspell that I don't want to see. Negate might be interesting to stop Liliana of the Veil, but it's pretty awful outside of that. And Rest in Peace is interesting to stop Tarmogoyf, but it's not what we want, really. So we could take a Blessed Alliance here. It's just another piece of removal rather than a counterspell. And I don't think we want Anger of the Gods. I think that's pretty poor here. Sure, let's run it back. I think we have a pretty good matchup here. Yes, we would like to play first. Yeah, this is a pretty good hand. We have 2 Geists. We have a Path to Exile, which was much needed that game. Looks like our opponent's going to 6, and they're bottoming, which is nice to see. I'm actually going to go ahead and get a Steam Vents here, because my other land can get a basic Plains if I need to. So at this point in the game, I don't think I want Blessed Alliance, but I definitely want another land. So Stomping Ground is a good start to see from our opponent. I'm going to go ahead and play Flooded Strand just to have Lightning Helix up. Just in case our opponent plays Dark Confidant or Scavenging Ooze. These are cards that we want to be able to kill. Looks like our opponent doesn't do that. So we're just going to go ahead and fetch. Probably get another Steam Vents here, I believe. I mean, that could be wrong because Verdict is double white, but with any other fetch, I think we're fine. Let's go ahead and shock. Play Geist. If they have Liliana here, they have Liliana, we play another Geist. And this is basically the game against Jund. It's like, okay, do you have Liliana? Alright, do you have another one? How many Lilianas do you have? Let's see, if we draw a land, it would be nice to go Geist plus Serum Visions. But here, let's just use our mana efficiently. Let's run out Geist. We have a lot of removal. We haven't seen any hand disruption. So even if our opponent has another, Liliana of the Veil, I don't think we're in a particularly poor position. And here I'm actually going to go ahead and discard the Supreme Verdict. It's just not what's going to win us this game, I think. And here we want our opponent to play a threat. That's not Liliana of the Veil, please. Okay, Kitchen Sphinx is absolutely fine. We have Path to Exile for that. So let's go ahead and start with a Serum Visions. Spell Queller is not bad at all, actually. It's a flash threat, and they probably don't have much removal. I like both of these. We may want the second path, like this turn, the next coming turn here. Alright, now let's go ahead and attack. That attacks Liliana. Creates a token. We're going to go ahead and go to face with the token. Play a Hallowed Fountain tapped. And go ahead, opponent. Another Kitchen Sphinx, so it's good that we kept the Path to Exile on top. See what else our opponent has here for us. And a Tarmogoyf. Oof. Those are a lot of good cards, actually. And I think even the Path to Exile might just be worth the Tarmogoyf more. So, let's go ahead and pass. Interesting that, see what our opponent decides to do here and how they want to attack. Looks like they're attacking just with Tarmogoyf. I'm actually going to go ahead and take this damage here and path on end of turn. That way I can keep up Cryptic Command. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and path to exile that Tarmogoyf. And here I'm going to do something a little odd, but I'm going to go ahead and Lightning Helix the Kitchen Finks. And then I'm going to bolt it too, and then I'll have Tempo with Cryptic and Spell Queller in hand. And now it's going to be a grind. We're both at 2 cards here. Now, opponent is way ahead on mana, of course, with all those Path to Exiles. But like any Snapcaster Mage here is going to be really strong. Liliana the Veil is, we want to counter that. We don't want to give our opponent the chance of like having removal for the Spell Queller, like a Lightning Bolt. Thankfully they don't have another follow-up creature here. Elspeth is going to be great if we can get there. We need 1 more mana. Alright, we'll play a Flooded Strand and we'll pass. Alright, our opponent goes ahead and passes as well. I'm not going to fetch here actually, and I know it's minimal, but I want to make sure... Yeah, see, I want it to hit that land. And I wonder what our opponent is sitting on, like a Fatal Push? Yeah, that's fine. And now I'm going to go ahead and go to 10. Get a Plains, get an Island. And this should draw the concession from our opponent pretty well, because even triple Lightning Bolt doesn't quite get us there, get them there this game. Yep. All right. So Jund is not the easiest matchup. Okay, so it really depends on us drawing the right spells. Considering they kept in cards like Fatal Push, potentially in heavy amounts, if they were just sitting on a bunch of cards there, I wonder if Spell Queller is even worth it. I wonder maybe like Anger of the Gods better to deal with Kitchen Finks. I mean, because Kitchen Finks was a real annoyance. So maybe but see, the Queller and Anger and even Geist don't play well nicely at all. This kind of makes me want to bring in Rest in Peace, even though it shuts off our Snapcaster Mages. Like turning off Tarmogoyf, Kitchen Finks could be the way to win, but it's probably not. So if any of you Jeskai Geist players are far more experienced than me, you think that's the correct line, let me know. But I think we have a pretty good setup here to try to steal game 3 here. And this is a pretty solid hand. It's just a standard Jeskai control hand. No real holes in it from hand disruption, so that's good. Our opponent just goes ahead and plays a Overgrown Tomb. We're going to go ahead and Serum Visions here. Path to Exile, Spell Snare, all pretty good cards, but I kind of think Spell Snare is going to be a bit dead. So I'm going to keep the Path to Exile. And if our opponent plays nothing here, I am likely keeping up Logic Knot. Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. And now we'll see what our opponent lets us do. Because if they resolve a Liliana here, like, it's a game. Yep, there goes Logic Knot. Sure. So, let's go ahead and Serum Visions here. Spell Queller, Geist. I kind of want all of these things. Am I going to have to double path anytime soon? I'm not sure. In case I want to go turn 3 Geist for whatever reason. Oh shoot, did I do that the wrong way? I did that the wrong way, didn't I? Yeah, I got to mix it up in my head. I don't think it's going to matter too much. Our opponent's going to play Liliana here, and we're going to feel pretty bad. But we're ahead on cards. We have Cryptic Command. and we can have a Spell Queller to try to pressure that Liliana. So let's go ahead and go Island. I think that's the card they still know about. So our opponent's probably just going to go ahead and tick up here. I'm probably going to go and discard a Path to Exile, oddly enough, as I think the rest of our hand is stronger. And if our opponent plays a threat here, we can try to Spell Queller it. Yep, let's go ahead and Spell Queller that. And if they have the Fatal Push, they would have cast it right now, I imagine. But it looks like they don't have it. So here's what we can do. We can go ahead and go attack Lily. The question is, do we want... I think we just want to play Geist. And then we still have Path to Exile plus Cryptic Command. And if our opponent wants to -2 Liliana of the Veil, they can go ahead and do that. I will probably sacrifice the Spell Queller, just because I have the Path to Exile in hand already. But if they can sequence this correctly with like a discard spell, then they may be able to pull it off. Scavenging Ooze. Sure. Can't do anything about Scavenging Ooze. So this is an interesting decision. I could just sacrifice Geist. Yeah, I might just sacrifice Geist here. If they have like a Terminate here, that's where I feel really bad. Alright, so Mountain was a pretty decent draw. That lets me Path plus Cryptic. And we're going to go ahead and... actually, we don't have to Path right now. We're in no particular rush. Yep, our opponent goes ahead and eats our creature there. If our opponent, okay, so they have another land, and they may rev up the Raging Ravine, which will put us into an interesting position. They have one card in hand, we have two, we're up on cards. I think we have a lot of live draws versus them. Maybe they have a few less. Still haven't seen a Snapcaster Mage this entire round, which is interesting, to say the least. Alright. One thing I've noticed against playing Jund as a blue deck... okay, so they played a land this turn, right? Let's go ahead and check the chat log real quick. They played Verdant Catacombs, so we can actually bounce the Ravine and then path the... oh, but then... Yeah. We can path the Ravine and... or path the Scooz and bounce the Ravine. And we'll go ahead, return target permanent to its owner's hand, draw a card. Alright, we drew a land, which will let us get in there with Colonnade. Alright, so now we know they have Ravine in hand. That's it right now. And I think we're getting paid off for protecting Queller over Geist. Here, how do we take less damage, I guess? I guess we just fetch up an island. Go ahead and attack. Attack our opponent for 6. Just put the pressure on them. And now even like a Liliana is not the worst thing in the world. There's Ravine. So they have 2 unknowns in hand. Spell Snare is not bad. Do you think they have... Would they have Terminate? And is it worth shocking for to still get in our 4 damage? I mean, Terminate's possible. Let's go ahead and activate it. Opponent's down to 7. All right, so it looks like we might be able to win this race. It's definitely down to the wire, though, for sure, and it's going to require some good draws off the top of our deck. It's going to require dodging some draws from our opponent's deck, too. K command. Target player discards a card, deals 2 damage to me. Oh, does he not have any creatures in his yard? All right, I mean, that's 1-for-1 trade there. I mean, if Spell Snare can counter a Kolaghan's command, that feels pretty good, right? Wow, revving up Ravine. This is a great position for us. Of course, if they have like Fatal Push here, they may end up winning the race. But Colonnade is going to put in some serious work here if it can get through some more damage. Oh man, Snapcaster Mage. Is it worth keeping up Snapcaster Mage here? Do we think they have Fatal Push is the question. Then we don't have 1 mana left. We can't even cast the Snapcaster Mage. We could just put them dead next turn and then just keep Cryptic up. I think that's safer. I think even though they probably have very few Fatal Pushes left in the deck, it's not a lethal attack this turn. Now, if it was, I would probably definitely be doing it, but it's not lethal right now. Alright, our opponent's revving up the Ravine. We're going to let them attack first just so they can't cast a spell. Have they played a land yet this turn? I don't think so. So I think we'll just go ahead and path it. I think even though Cryptic is like the value play, I think Path is the safe play. I guess we could have gone Blessed Alliance there. Yeah, I probably should have done Blessed Alliance, huh? Alright, so that's it. We got game 1 versus Jund. It's pretty close, but we ended up getting there in the grind. Alright, thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for the next round. See you soon.